Well, hello, everybody. My name is Sarah, and this is Pearls of Wisdom and Food with my clean intermittent fasting and my OMAD, my beloved OMAD. I am so grateful for this program. I am so grateful for how it evolved for me, what has happened, how I've worked on things, how things have just happened. They feel like gifts from above. It's been a great journey. And so many of you have been with me from the Weight Watcher on over. And I don't know why they put that little ampersand with like this address, Cape Cod Weight Watcher woman. It's like that was so many years ago. I don't know where they got that, why they keep doing it, but that's not me anymore. I'm a clean intermittent faster and I enjoy my feast of an OMAD. Yesterday I had a little guilty pleasure time. I always like my guilty pleasure time. Do you? And I was listening to Jackie Foodie Jackie, and she is a clean intermittent faster with her OMAD, and what she eats is just absolutely incredible. She's half my age, so I don't know if that makes a difference, but she certainly is able to have lots and lots of treats in her OMAD window. Sometimes she has a window, but recently she's taken on the challenge of just having an hour to eat, which is basically what I do, but it usually ends up 90 minutes because I wash dishes and kind of leave the eating to just let that course settle before I start on the next one. Like, say, I'm having the entree, and then I stop, and then I will come in here, check messages, do things like that before I start into the next round, which usually includes a fruit or half, or a fruit and a half, and perhaps a slice of rustic bread. I do like my rustic bread, my hearty seeds and grains rustic bread. I like it with hard butter on it. I like it with hard butter and peanut butter on it. I also like it with sugar and cinnamon on it. It helps me with my 8-year-old. You know, the 8-year-old that comes out wanting that. Always going to other kids' houses where their moms made that for them. There wasn't much food in my alcoholic household growing up, as many of you have heard. So, on top of all the food and loving food and where I am in my journey, I got the background of, the food issues. And so, who doesn't? What woman in America, North America, or the United States doesn't have issues with food? Please, especially if you're around my age, which is almost 73, we had so many issues. And I was listening to a fabulous person talk today, and they were talking about, how it was for us and how we inherited so much from our mothers. And a lot of us that were overweight as kids had slim mothers. Now, I know that they began to change the food and the chemicals and just all the things and using all those seed oils in foods in the 60s. So a lot of us that are my age might remember our mothers as slim, not having a problem. My mother could have cared less about eating, and she was slim, but, she drank a lot. And I sometimes say that her only food items that she chewed were the olives in the martinis and the cherries in the Manhattans, right? And yeah, she didn't care about food. And thus, not caring about food, there wasn't any food in the house. I mean, I remember plenty of times pulling out the Pepperidge Farm white bread, of course, always. And it was green with mold. Nobody ate in my house. I was the only child. I was adopted. So I never had any idea of what I came from. But I know that the food issues, or not, that my mother had, I inherited just by being in the environment. My grandmother, her mother, my mother was an only child, and my grandmother, her mother, had this beautiful little enamel tray, probably, 9 by 9, and it held her marmalade and her raspberry preserves and her sugar. And she even had these little crystal They looked like bathtubs, but they were salt tubs with little tiny, like sterling silver little spoons, maybe an inch. They're so cute, and I used to love to polish them. I have them somewhere. And she would sprinkle salt on her things. And in the morning, my grandmother, when I went there, because she doted on me and let me have foods that, or would buy foods that my mother wouldn't. So we would go to the little store here on Cape Cod and get the food. But anyway, I digress. She would have her little breakfast. She was beautiful. She was elegant. She was educated at Wellesley. She was the president of her class. She was just such an example, such a power, such influence on me. Maybe the pearls, but then I became a Sarah Pearl. So she'd have her little egg, her 2 Jones sausages. I haven't tasted a sausage like she made. She had an old-fashioned stove that you lit with the match and then blew out the match and then put it in a little dish on top of the stove so it didn't set anything else on fire. And a broiler. It was just one of those old-fashioned stoves. I'm sure you've seen them. They must weigh 9 tons, probably cast iron and then enamel coated. And she'd have her little breakfast. She probably had a little taste of something for lunch, and she had a little dinner. So she was probably 3 squares. She didn't suffer any of the food issues I had. I would wake her up in the morning. I was such a spoiled brat. I would wake her up in the morning, and she'd make with the unsweetened cocoa blocks. Remember the little squares? They still sell them, of course. And she would make that brownie batch, and I would undercook them and eat the entire thing. I mean, I was just such an addict. And I was addicted to Tab, probably at an early age. But anyway, those are all the things that a lot of us, still are overcoming. A lot of us didn't go back and kind of do, a little history on what we ate, why we ate. Does it still follow us today? Do we still have trigger foods back from the childhood of binge eating or overeating or junk food eating when nobody was looking, which was definitely me? And I noticed that I was always attracted to young girls that were more overweight than me because it kind of gave me permission. This isn't anything I'm figuring out. I'm thinking, oh yeah, she's going to be my friend because she weighs, 20 or 30 pounds more than me. It wasn't anything conscious that I did. It's just, I end up befriending them. Part fascinating. I was always fascinated with what other people ate, and I still am. And I'm always fascinated by what I eat and what I plan. And I guess, once a foodie, always a foodie. It's just a foodie in recovery is a little bit different than a foodie that's not in recovery. And if you consider yourself a foodie and you come from that, just nightmare of food in your past to having some semblance of what normal is, at least in your life. I know that doing the OMAD, before I did the clean intermittent fasting, I was just doing intermittent fasting, but I was having loaded coffees with fat and butter and xylitol, the alternative sugar. So it wasn't a clean intermittent fast for a long time. I just did OMAD. And I began to, I don't know if I worked on it. I can't remember, because it all just, you just kind of evolve. So I don't know if I worked on the intuitive eating. I worked on understanding the signals of fullness from my belly, little by slowly, the intuitive part and the getting the signal that you've had enough, girly, began to happen for me. Not for a whole lot of years, though. I mean, well into my 60s. Never felt full, ever. Never, ever. And also, had no, I had no intuitiveness about eating. I just indulged in whatever I wanted, and I would purposely set myself up for sabotage. You ever do that? I would buy, like, let's say, a cake at BJ's. I don't have a BJ's membership anymore, so I can't go there and find it. But fortunately, they stopped making it. And it was a total uncontrollable trigger to me. So although I wasn't a binge eater per se and couldn't stop, there were certain food items that no way. I had to just keep going, no full button, almost to the end. And it was this particular item from BJ's that just got me into trouble every time. And I remember, like Greg just like looking at me as I kept walking back into the kitchen with the empty plate and the fork. And he knew I wasn't done, and he would just never said a word. He would just probably be quietly amazed. He didn't have food issues. He loved to eat. He would start eating and continue eating. And, there was not any binging. He didn't have a weight issue. It's like, he doesn't count when it comes to food issues, right? And so if I ate like him, I felt that I would have put on 45 pounds. But lo and behold, now with the clean intermittent fasting, I don't know, there's some part of a miracle in that. And then just having my OMAD, I have what you might look at and say, that's a lot of food. A woman I worked with yesterday, she said to me, what's for dinner? And I told her it was the shepherd's pie with the sweet potato instead of the white potato. It was a salad. It was a half of an onion bagel. It was a fresh pineapple that I've cut up. And that was that. I ended up having a piece of rustic bread after that. And she said, Sarah, that sounds like a lot. But maybe my portions aren't like what she's envisioning. I mean, this small pie, probably only 6 or 7 inches. I've gotten 3, I cut it in thirds for 3 meals out of that. So that's the shepherd's pie. A rather large salad filled with things like craisins and fresh organic strawberries, feta cheese, organic spring mix, organic arugula, organic romaine, carrot shreds, lots of things in it with Bragg's dressing, vinaigrette dressing, and some extra virgin olive oil. And it was delicious. And I eventually felt full, but I definitely listened. And it was funny, when I finished the slice of rustic, my body said, you're not really done yet. It's like, really? There's like one more bite of something else would have registered the full button. So I had a little something after that, and it registered as full. And whoever that is on my shoulder, I could just flick off, and I was safe again for the night. I brushed my teeth, I flossed my teeth. That's when I know I'm done. That's been a staple in my OMAD journey, is like floss and brush. Your body knows you're done. You don't go back after. And my head just always accepted that. So that part was really good. But it's just been an interesting journey in looking at food issues and listening to this person being interviewed and how she is about food. And she was going to be 38 the next week, or 39 the next week. And she was struggling. She put on a whole bunch of weight from the pandemic on and couldn't seem to get it off, never felt full, and was trying to really work on being able to feel full, because she felt that she'd never get traction with her goal of losing weight unless she could feel full, because it played too hard on her to never feel full. And so she never allowed her. Yeah, she just kept going, and hence all that weight gain. But more of this to follow. With all of the Ozempic talk, I'm going to do a video on Ozempic next time, because there's so much good news about it, bad news about it, concern about it, success with it. It's a fascinating thing. And so I just wanted to open up the dialogue. So if you have any Ozempic stories, or if you're taking it yourself, or any experience, you've started it, you've stopped it. They say once you start, you can't stop. I don't know. Has enough been done about it to make you feel safe with it? Now they're pushing for it to come out with the pill form and have the FDA approve of it. A lot of moving parts with Ozempic, and I'm just not sure how the rest of you feel about this. And so I just thought I'd bring it up and open it for discussion down below. And the next time I'm on, I'm going to take what a lot of you said, do a little bit more looking around on Dr. Google on the website on Ozempic, and just do a whole video on it because I think it's fascinating. Maybe even interview somebody that takes it, loves it, and why. You could do that. That's always fun too. So if you are taking it and interested in maybe having a little side-by-side interview with me like I used to do, let me know. I just think it's kind of fascinating. And for the rest of the week, have a good one. I hope your food is in order. You feel at peace with food. Gosh, it took me so many years, 7 decades. Come on. Might be taking you that long too. But is it worth it? Yes. I guess it was worth all of that behind me to learn. It is clearly, my Achilles heel, my addiction, and I deal with it one day at a time. And I'm getting through, and I hope that you are too. It's been great having the chat with you. Let me know about Ozempic below. I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye for now.